Welcome to another episode of Content Creators Unite, the show where we discuss all things content creation. If you want to learn how to grow your business using your blog, newsletters, books, website, and more, you're in the right place. I'm your host, John Clements. Our guest for today's episode is Nikki Holbrook. Nikki is a branding and web designer and the founder of Flower Buds Creative, a woman-led studio on a mission to amplify the brilliance of other women-led brands, especially those who are breaking barriers in their area of expertise. Nikki aims to make design approachable, impactful, and enjoyable, all while staying true to each client's vision and story. So, Nikki, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, a mutual friend of ours reached out and said, "Hey, you should have Nikki on." And I said, "Hey, absolutely. I'm excited because I'm excited to talk about design and branding and why they're so important. And that should be a good conversation. But before we get into that, I do want to know a little bit about your background and just how you got into design."
Yeah, so I actually have a fine arts degree from Arcadia College, Arcadia University, which used to be Beaver College in Pennsylvania, which is very funny. But I, right out of school, went into working for Nutrisystem, which is a diet company, which most people know. And I was a web designer for them. I loved my job. And, coming out of school, I didn't think I was going to be doing print design, or I thought I was going to do print design and started doing more digital marketing design for a lot of larger companies. And just really loved what I was doing. Went to a lot of different in-house corporate jobs and roles and decided to kind of take it out on my own and built Flower Buds Creative. And here we are since 2021. So it's been great.
Nice. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm glad you decided to go on your own. I also used to work for someone else, but yeah, working for yourself is challenging and hard, but also very rewarding. So I'm excited you're on that journey too.
Yeah, my goal is to kind of take, my knowledge of helping these bigger businesses and trying to help the smaller guys and take that quality and experience and help the smaller guys do exactly what we're doing, take their passions and put it into their own hands. So,
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to dig into this idea of design because if you're a small business owner, maybe website design or graphic design isn't the foremost thing on your mind because you have, 1,000 other things to do. But I want to know, why does design matter so much? Like, as a small business owner, why should I even care about the design of my website or what my social media looks like, any of that stuff?
right. So design really builds trust with your customers. That's probably the number one thing in my opinion. Coming from marketing design, the biggest way to build trust with your customers is having that consistent look and feel. It just shows that extra amount of polish and that you know exactly what you're doing. As much effort that it takes to put into doing that type of thing, it is really important. And some of the things that you might not be able to notice, that a designer can pick out the consistency of colors and typefaces and things. Those are types of things that you generally feel when you go to a website. So when you think about, just browsing the web and you're going to certain internet pages for different brands, you might see websites that feel a little janky or just kind of, not something that you would want to purchase from. You feel like, I don't know what's going to happen with my money if I put my credit card number into this. There's probably inconsistencies there or things that just feel off about it. The page might be broken, things like that. So there are certain elements about design that just give you a feeling of trust and that you can actually work with this person and feel like you're in good hands. So, especially when it comes to selling e-commerce or selling directly to customers, that's really important because there's such a large competition when it comes to selling to the larger, breadth of people. You want to make sure that they feel confident and comfortable putting their money towards this company.
Yeah, I tend to think of your website, for example, as like your digital front door of your business. So
Mhm.
if I'm, going to go to the hardware store and I pull up and it's just a nightmare, like it's messy and the door is half off the hinges and there's, people standing around. I think maybe I'll just go to the other hardware store, right? So I feel like that's the same idea with design in your website.
Yeah, that's part of it. And what I try to preach, especially with my web design clients, is user experience is so important. So part of my background, is in user experience and thinking through how people use a website and what makes them feel comfortable and confident, and also what's intuitive, what people actually know how to use on a website. So there are learned behaviors that we have that we may or may not know about, that we've been taught to use and know that those certain elements work. So just off the top of my head, one of the things that I think about is like the hamburger menu. So when you're on a cell phone and you're on a website, the navigation at the top, which typically on a desktop has all of the names of the different pages at the top. The hamburger menu is something that to click so that it'll pull down a list of the navigation elements. So that's kind of like a high level, example of that. But there are pieces throughout your site, elements of color pairings that you should be using to make sure that people with visibility issues can see things. There's ADA compliance that you need to make sure you have to make sure that you're standing up to the law. So if your website and brand, isn't ADA compliant, you can be sued actually by anybody because they're not able to see your site. People with color blindness, people who use screen readers, things like that. If they're not able to use your site properly, they could essentially sue you. And so there are certain things that designers know about that a lot of, the common people don't get. So,
Yeah, and actually, it's funny you brought up ADA. I had a guest on the show a while back named Maxwell Ivy, and he's the blind blogger, and he's a big ADA champion. I learned a ton, yeah, about ADA from him. So, to anyone listening, if you're interested in that, go check out that episode with Maxwell Ivy. Yeah,
yeah, that's really cool.
yeah. So I do want this kind of tails into the next question I want to ask you about because AI is the big 600-pound gorilla in the room all the time
Mhm.
for people like you and for people like me who do, like, I'm a writer and an editor, so it's in my world as well. So why can't I just go to AI, go to ChatGPT and say, hey, make me a logo or a graphic or even a website and just, call it a day?
Yeah. So I think any more people today are looking for genuine connection. Whether it is with language, like what you do, or it is with visuals, they want something that feels genuine and authentic. And AI typically is very robotic and just not personalized. It's not custom. And so when you're working with these AI bots, they're giving you something that has already been made or something that is just not doesn't feel like true to who you are or what you are. And what I do with my clients a lot of times is I'm figuring out the core values behind you and your business, understanding your mission, and kind of aligning that to your audience and trying to figure out how we can communicate who you are to the right people to attract the right people. And AI is not that. It's not able to get to the core of who you are. There's a lack of human connection there. And, if you're not working with a human, chances are the result that you're going to get is going to be inhuman. So you want to make sure that you're working closely with someone that actually understands you and can, get to the core of everything that you are.
Yeah, and I agree with that 100%. I'm not saying like no one should ever use AI for anything, but
Right.
one thing I've noticed is someone, I don't remember where I heard this. I've heard this a number of times. The AI is an expert at everything except the thing you're an expert in.
Mhm.
Because once you start querying it about what you're an expert in, you say, "Oh, wait a second, that's wrong. That's not good. They forgot about this. It didn't do that." To your point, like, okay, it can give me an image, but it doesn't know my values. And even if I tell it my values, does it really know what those are? No, it's just pattern recognition.
Right. And it's a starting point for sure because, there are times where, I need it to kind of bounce ideas off of or just kind of get, a little bit of a starting point there. But it's not the full answer. You have to kind of make sure that you're going in there and customizing no matter what you're doing. If you're trying to continue to make blog posts and things like that, you need to make sure that you're going in there and making sure that all the things are correct, because AI isn't always correct anymore. I was just talking about this in one of my working groups that a lot of the AI bots are now learning that agreeing with you is what you want. So they're trying to say yes to a lot of the things that you're asking it, and kind of just like make you feel like you're right. And so it's not always correct in the answers that it's giving you or the content it's giving you. So you need to make sure that, when you're using these helpful tools, that it's also giving you what you're asking for or what you need. So we can't just like blindly use those tools. We need to make sure that we're double checking them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you can't, I tell people don't outsource your thinking to, whatever LLM you're using. Like just please, you have to verify everything. You have to think through everything. And like you said, it can be a good starting point, but if it's not the final step in the process, at least it shouldn't be if you want quality.
Right. I mean, I always think of it as like helpful for outlines and things like that. But when it comes to writing the actual content, I can't tell you how many times I've seen it try to write, posts for me, and they all feel very similar. They all use the same type of language. There's repeatable things that you will see in a lot of different posts. There's a way for you to point out that those certain elements are from AI because they're pulling the same type of language and using the same type of language. It's a robot, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's always going to use the same elements over and over again because they know that that's what's, acceptable. So,
Yeah. I mean, it's derivative. It's pulling from a training data set, and that's all it has to offer.
right.
So I want to, okay, we could talk about this all day, but I should get to something more important,
The
because
evil AI.
yeah, our AI bashing session is now over.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about actually your business because you have a bit of a unique business model in that you offer a subscription-based design service. So I'm curious how you came up with this model and what are the benefits that your clients experience over maybe the traditional way of doing things?
Right. So I have a subscription model where I work with companies that are looking for um, just extra bandwidth with their creative and or senior creative specialties. So I'm thinking a lot of times working with marketing teams and things like that. So businesses that maybe are on that growth phase where maybe they don't have um, the budget to afford a full-time designer or someone to consistently work with their creative, full time. And so I'm there to support them and create those brand elements or brand design pieces for them so that they can stay consistent. Because, like we just said, consistency is so important to, build trust with your creative. And so I'm able to understand your brand, see what you're doing, what your brand looks like, and create creative for you. That feels really custom and feels clean and connected to your audience. But on top of that, my program, specifically my subscription model, is made so that it's a flat fee every month and you get unlimited amount of requests. So the way that I work it is I work on one piece at a time. So you can have as many requests as you want in the bucket, but we work on one piece at a time. And that's meant to just make sure that we're focusing on the the target at hand, the one product at hand. We're not juggling a bunch of different projects. We want to make sure that we're giving you quality and I'm giving you exactly what you're asking for. And so in order to do that, we need to make sure that we're focusing on one thing at a time and getting those things accomplished. So we move at your pace as fast as you possibly can. And I will turn over changes, edits, design elements within 1 to 2 days, based off of the request at hand. Obviously, I can't give you a website in 1 to 2 days, but there's ways for us to break out those bigger projects into smaller, biteable pieces. But for the most part, social media images, any kind of elements for marketing, things like that would most likely be done within 1 to 2 days.
Nice. Yeah, it seems like speed, speed while maintaining quality. It sounds like that's kind of a selling point for you, which is, yeah, if you can pull that off, that's like top tier. So kudos to you. And I'm curious because you also offer offer a service where you will build out a website for your clients in 5 days. Now, you know, I've worked on a couple websites. That seems like a very sporty timeline. So I'm curious, just from a like an operations point of view, how do you pull that off?
Yeah, so I have a very strict process and it is very collaborative as well. So, I tell my clients when I start working with them, they get a questionnaire before we even start. You get a questionnaire. There are all these questions asking you about your needs. A lot of people that come to me for a website come for also the brand design in a week that I do as well. So those kind of work in tandem together or work in, hand in hand essentially. And so both of those have questionnaires to start out. And that questionnaire is pretty lengthy. It kind of gets to the core of your business, understanding who you are, who your ideal client is. And I want to understand all of the ins and outs of that. If you don't have the brand in a week, and you're working on the website with me in a week, I'm asking for all of your brand elements, understanding your brand board, seeing what colors you're using, what fonts, what are your logos, what are your photos, all of the elements that I need to start creating a website. And the process works within each day. There's feedback that I need to get from my clients. So I tell my clients to reserve an hour to 2 hours of time to kind of walk through the deliverables that I give them each day and to give me direct and clear feedback. And so we work on a Trello board. There are no meetings. We don't schedule a meeting each day. And I do the project from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. each day. So they get their deliverables at 5 p.m. And then my clients will review from 5 p.m. to 10 a.m. the next day. They have until 10 a.m. the following day to give me feedback. Once I get that feedback, I start, doing the next round of design. It's typically the first day is just homepage. And then the second day we go into more of the interior pages. It's included, there's 5 pages included within the package. So we build out the rest of the interior pages, but then make the changes to, the homepage if there are any updates to like the way that it looks brand wise, things like that. And then we start moving into responsive, and then we move into the metadata, the SEO of everything as well. And then finally, it's just kind of the final walkthrough and connecting everything and doing the launch on the final day. So every day is super collaborative with my clients, which is really nice. We don't have, like I said, we don't have the meetings and we just communicate through Trello board. But in some ways that's nicer because they don't have to make sure we're not trying to connect, timelines and making sure that we can have a meeting together. They can really go in there and review it any time that they want to in the evening. And my clients seem to love it. It's, a great way for them to get a website super quickly that's high quality, user experience forward, and also thinking a little bit about SEO at a high level, which is really nice. I am not an SEO content writer, but I am considering SEO with, the metadata part of things and making sure that all of your alt tags are correct with your photos, things like that to make sure that your website is accessible and gonna rank higher there in Google. So
Yeah, I had a feeling that there was a strong process behind that. In a former life, I was a quality management contributor at a very large aerospace company. I won't name which one.
yeah.
So that process is very important. So I'm glad to hear that. And also, no meetings. Oh my gosh, what a great selling point. Can I tell you, if I never have another meeting my entire life, it'll be too many.
I know that was like one of the things that I was very adamant about because I was like, that is always the hardest part with any project is nailing down meeting times. And, Calendly and things like that have been really helpful in allowing us to schedule meetings easily, but it still is a pain in the butt. And for an entire week of time, that can be even harder. And so meetings run long and, sometimes they can just be drawn out. And in order to kind of save time on both ends, I figure let's make sure that we're communicating in the best way. And the ways that I do that is I record myself on Loom presenting the work. And so they're getting a video, walkthrough of everything, of hearing me talk through things instead of having to read a novel. However, they don't have to ask a bunch of questions in that meeting, in that quote unquote meeting that we're not having. They don't have to we don't have to have that back and forth as much. And so another thing that's really great about this process is it's a way for you to have progress over perfection. And so what I try to enforce with my clients is it's best for you to just get moving rather than to overthink everything. And for us to make quick decisions is a really great way for you to just kind of get things out there. And we can always, make things better as we start to see how it performs. So I try to tell people there are ways for, I like to build in Squarespace. That's my platform of choice. It's really easy for you to see in Squarespace the analytics of your website and where people are coming from, where they're dropping off, what people are actually doing on your website. And so once we start to see that information, it's really easy for us to identify, okay, what isn't working about this current setup? What do we have to change? Because it's really easy for us to get, stuck in the weeds otherwise and start overthinking, well, is this actually going to work? Should we be doing this instead? So this is a really great way to kind of get all that out of the way and just, bulldoze through it and get it done. So,
Yeah, and I love that you stress, progress over perfection and don't overthink things. Because my experience has been you're never going to know what works when it comes to marketing until you get it out there and test it. You're just, I don't know. I don't know what people want. No one knows what people want. You have to get it out there and figure it out. So this, yeah, no
yeah,
point overthinking anything.
absolutely. Yeah, that's the number one thing there. And also with marketing, especially, there is no, hard and fast rule. It's everything.
Absolutely.
It's all just like you never know. And
Mhm.
you have to give it some time to see if things work or don't work. You have to maybe give it 3 months to see what happens and start, going through the process. So it really is a like flow that you have to walk through. And just getting something out there is going to make you steps above like where you were before if you don't have anything at all. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love all of that. I love that process you described. It sounds to me like you have good boundaries in your life. If you're saying I only, this is my working time. So I'm going to assume that you have some time in your day when you're not working. So when that happens, what do you like to do? What do you do for fun?
So I am a gardener, a very avid gardener, hence the name Flower Buds Creative.
Oh, it
Um,
makes sense now.
yeah, yeah. So I have a garden in my backyard, and we just actually built out a bunch of beds in our backyard. We do a lot of vegetable gardening, and we did a ton more beds this year, and I'm super excited about it. The beds they look phenomenal right now. It's been cold and rainy here in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia area. So it's kind of been not as summery as it should be for June. But the plants are thriving with all this rain that we've been getting. So it's been really, really fun to see everything grow. Me and my husband are big foodies as well. So we love to cook, and we love to like make new recipes with the vegetables we're making. So we have a lot of different vegetables that we're trying to grow this year. Hopefully everything actually comes up, and we got the bounty that we're expecting. But yeah, that's like my number one thing that I love to do. That and hanging out with the dog.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. So my wife and I have a black thumb. Both of us do. So gardening's out for us. But I'm right there with you on the cooking. I love to cook. I love to, make new recipes or fall back on old recipes too. So that's really cool. So Nikki, there's probably going to be people out there who are listening who are saying, "Wow, she has what I need. I love the process. I love what she's offering. I love her expertise. But I don't know how to get a hold of her. So Nikki, how can people get a hold of you?"
So the best way is probably to look at my website, flowerbudscreative.com. I also have Instagram, which my handle is flowerbudscreative there as well. And then I'm also on Pinterest, and I have a Facebook, but it's not great. So Pinterest
Don't
and
we all?
Pinterest and Instagram are probably the best ways to kind of see a lot of my content. I'm also on LinkedIn, and I use my personal page there to kind of communicate a lot about things that I'm doing. So that's a great place to connect as well.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure to get your website and your social handles in the show notes. So if you're listening, you can just look down and they'll be right there for you. So be sure to connect with her. Nikki, it's just been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much, Don. This was really fun. I'm so excited I got to talk to you today.
Oh, well, I had fun too. And to our listeners, hopefully you had fun today as well. And if you did, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. I bring on the best experts in the content creation space, just like Nikki, and I get them to share their secrets with you so you can grow your business. And with that, hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time on the Content Creators Unite podcast.